5 years ago, we bought undeveloped property in far north California without a clue of how to make our tiny homestead a reality. We slept on our old IKEA couch under the Milky Way, all while storing our belongings in 2 shipping containers while working to build out our little dream on the other side of the property. We went from the shell of a shed to a self-built out casita in under a year. But it's been a couple of years since our last update, and we wanted to share with you the progress we've made since then.
Adventure awaits.
Now, when we first moved into the casita, we were running on an emergency backup solar setup with 2 12-volt 200-amp batteries and 2 Proline 5,000-watt DC to AC inverters. We were running solar panels built for an RV, and these would charge all day long with the inverter off, and then we would turn it on again when we needed power in the evening to charge all of our gadgets. In the morning, we turn this way to face the rising sun, and then as the day progresses, we slowly turn it heading that way. We had to be extremely conservative with our power usage, so we'd run the ceiling fan to circulate our air from the tiny wood stove, but we relied on solar fairy lights to dimly light the house at night. And our refrigerator was actually an ice chest that we just kept outside. We already had the solar panel array set up, and most of the trenching for the conduit was completed, but Ruben still needed to build the actual battery system itself in order to utilize all of the power that we were drawing from the solar panels. We did have a midway solution where Ruben set up 4 of the lead-acid batteries to draw power from the solar array, but they didn't have the capacity to run everything at night. So even though at this point we did move the refrigerator into the casita, we still had to shut it off at night in order to conserve energy.
Well, we're still at it with the batteries. We thought that this week we would have it completed, but it's been another song and dance week with getting the power to balance properly. You have decided to take them apart.
Yeah.
All this work
Again and again. But these are the growing pains of building a battery. This is... it just takes time. Now, because I'm going to be having this over there, I'm going to put the batteries, the lead-acid batteries up here, and it's still going to be connected to all this. And it's still going to be able to manage the batteries properly and do what needs to be done when it's going to keep them from overcharging and undercharging. And these are going to do their thing over there.
Now these have to get taken apart and taken to the other side of the property where there is dedicated power, so Ruben can go ahead and charge them, hopefully equally. We went through so many rounds of charging the batteries, balancing the batteries, testing the strings on the panels, keeping the batteries at a proper temperature when winter had us below freezing for over a week, plus the days were shorter.
Ruben has set up these cells to have the batteries in the proper order that they need to be with the bus bars that he just configured. That is all set up and on. So now he's got to clean it all up. Once he does that, then he's going to try to switch it over to the big solar array, and hopefully we can leave it there.
We're basically back to where we started because I had to top balance all these batteries so that they wouldn't overcharge and cause all kinds of trouble.
And that's why we had to stop in the middle and go back to the acid batteries because they were overcharging.
So now we're hoping that top balancing fixed the problem. If it didn't, I gotta figure out another way to fix this because we need these batteries to work because I need my refrigerator on all the time. 157. Why am I getting a voltage drop of that much inside here? We have a 7 kilowatt solar array. We have a 14 kilowatt battery, and then we have a 3 kilowatt inverter. So that's why my brain was backwards. I was like, oh my gosh, the panels aren't where they're supposed to be. It's like, oh, okay, we're good, everybody. This is happening, babe. It's working.
Ultimately, we got the batteries balanced and charged, and we were up and running. But boy, was it headache after headache after headache, especially for Ruben. Another major project and upgrade for our life was running the gas line to the house. Up until this point, we cooked on a camp stove, heated water for dishes by boiling it on the camp stove, and took showers with a camping shower. Now that was after the weather got too cold to use the outdoor hose shower. Our hike crew shower was actually an upgrade from showering with heated water and a bucket with a ladle. I kid you not. But this little thing here was awesome. We used an old wine barrel outside of the window as our water tank, and this camp shower would pump the heated water right into our shower. It did break on us at one point, and they sent us a replacement, no questions asked. Once the trenching for the electrical conduit was completed, we were able to focus on running the gas line from the propane tank to the house.
3/8 line going to underground line. Here we go.
Now this project was a bit more straightforward for Ruben, especially in comparison to the solar battery system. But as with any of these infrastructure build-outs, focus and precaution are a must. So it was still a series of testing and measuring and adjusting until we could move forward with hooking things up. And throughout this whole process, we relied heavily on our friends and neighbors up here for the use of their equipment. And this was our first official meal, cooking on a real stovetop. This is seriously such a big deal. I'm gonna sit outside or in here. With the gas line fully operating, it becomes a domino effect of amenities that we can now hook up. The next big deal was an on-demand water heater.
No more, no less. Into it. And nobody sells that 3/4 inch flexible pipe in my area. And I don't want to wait. So impatience has brought me here.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Pretty much. We have 30 PSI on the high side right here. Then we have this reducer, which drops it down to 10 PSI. This is going to go into here and into the dryer. Now, I already checked this bottom part for leaks and she is not leaking, so that's good. This is just the Teflon tape that I put on there to make sure that it doesn't leak. So now, slow as we go. No leaking.
Now, we had previously moved our upright freezer and washer and dryer unit into the shed, but now both the washer and dryer will soon be usable. No more driving to the laundromat. Now, technically, our tiny home is considered an RV, so we have been able to utilize a composting toilet system, which worked just fine. But there's just something that feels more civilized about a system that flushes. So now it's time to dig because, well, the tank has to go somewhere. And for those of you who have been following along, you already know that we have rocks and cobbles and boulders and reefs of lava rock. And the tank has to go right here, where it's basically an elevated lump of bedrock.
That looks like a job for Superman.
And it was during this dig behind the casita where our little pirate cat found us.
We got a new visitor today. As Ruben was working in the gravel pit, digging some stuff up, he looked up and saw a little tail, and we have a little kitten. She looks like she's been out on her own for a little while now. She doesn't look terrible, but she doesn't look great either. So we cleaned her up a little bit, gave her a little bit of milk and water and some leftover turkey, and she gobbled it up. So tomorrow I'm going to take her to the vet and see if we can get her some antibiotics, just kind of see where she stands. So Wasn't expecting a little kitten to come our way, but here we are.
The vet determined that she had likely been abandoned because of her weak condition a few days before we found her, and she was severely dehydrated and underweight. He didn't know if she'd have the use of even one eye by the time she was healthy again, but we took her in and nursed her as best we could. Our job was to let her eat as much as she wanted and to keep her eyes clean. Slowly but surely, she became a healthy kitten again, despite her senses being a little dull and some slight digestion issues. Good job. Because of her dull senses and one lost eye, she wouldn't do well for too long as an outdoor cat. We felt bad for her being cooped up in this tiny space, so we made climbing walls, perches, and steps so she could get around and be somewhat active. Because of our love for adventuring, we decided to try to harness train her, which she, of course, hated at first. And then it was finally time to suture up her one lost eye. She healed up fairly quickly and soon was just a regular old house cat, except with one eye. She has a crooked tail and extraordinarily tiny teeth, loves car rides, goes for daily walks, and is a very, very, very overly healthy weight. And she even figured out how to take herself for walks.
Where are you going? What happened? Where'd you go?
So I am standing in the middle of my leach field, and we have an inspector coming out to verify the installation. And once we get the okay, we get to bury this. And once we get to bury this, I'm done, which is awesome because there's so much more to do.
Once the leach field got the green light, we were able to bury it and move on to getting the water tank in place. After a solid layer or two of sand over the gravel, we rolled the cistern over for its final resting spot.
I don't want to get in front of it.
Roll this as close as we can to the edge. Right here. Okay, now up.
Now, our water pump is located a quarter-mile away at the entrance of our property because that is where the one power line extends to. To get water to the casita, we have to turn on that water pump, which pipes water all the way over here so we can fill up this 1,200-gallon water cistern. Because of the sediment, we installed filter number 1 here before it enters the tank.
Where are you?
And because of this sediment, it does require an annual cleaning, which means getting inside. We find that topping off the tank about once a week keeps us in good shape and gives us enough water reserve if the power goes down. This is what we experienced when we first moved up. Now, we've had our water tested and it's perfectly safe to drink, but the heavy minerals, especially iron, require a few rounds of filters before we use it, so Ruben set up this little monster here as filter number 2, as well as a water softener.
Quarter, and we're going to be running 3/4 from this point on.
That'll simplify things, right?
Yes.
Up until this point, the only way we had water over at the casita was to haul it in. For drinking water, we purchased it. But for everyday cleaning, dishes, and initial showering, we'd fill up 5-gallon water jugs over at the wellhead pump and truck it over. Prior to this, we went ahead and seeded the kitchen and bathroom sinks. It was also during this project where Ruben's power drill gave out.
Gave up the ghost.
Aww. How old is she?
13 years.
We used this drink dispenser as our tap for, quote, running water. But since the septic was now in place, I could now let the water run down the drain rather than hauling the dirty dishwater back out and throwing it into the fire pit. This was another game changer. And now this means the disposal can actually be activated.
Hit it. Holy schmoly, that works!
That's like winning the lottery for me. You have no idea.
After a few months of finishing other projects and Ruben finessing the water lines and filters, we were finally able to focus on actual running water in the casita.
Okay, he's going to turn the water on. We pulled the refrigerator out and shut that valve because we want to make sure that we don't have water spitting out where the water connects for the ice machine in here. But if everything works, we should have water spitting out of that spout, which means I won't have to fill that up on a regular basis anymore.
Ah, the house is in disarray right now. Check it out.
It's running!
This is scary.
Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness, it's running! You've never seen running water except from that spout.
And this right here was the ultimate game changer. And of course, you can't forget the actual flushing toilet. Now, we brought in a pre-built base cabinet setup in our first year of being here, but all of the shelving needed to be built out along with the drawer slides and finishing. We also had a simple day bed setup, but we also decided to extend that in order to convert it into a slide-out queen bed.
It's very comfortable. And it's not as squeaky as the last one was.
So I made this sort of diagram quite a while back and trying to figure out how we can fit our computer and printers and all of the things that we need to fit under there.
And building out our office/entertainment center/firewood storage area was another challenge in space utilization. We drew up our plans and adjusted accordingly. Now, when we first moved in here, the way we accessed our sleeping loft was to use a telescoping ladder. And at the time, we had a subfloor, which was a little bit tacky, so there were no issues. The day finally came for us to install our vinyl flooring, and in my eagerness to get things set up upstairs, I didn't wait for Ruben to secure the telescoping ladder, and I slipped, fell, and tore a major muscle. I was laid up for quite a few weeks, and poor Ruben had to really take care of me, but he secured the ladder, and this is how we have been getting up and down from the loft since then. And the day finally came when we could focus on building a rolling library ladder that would just tuck away.
This is the rail that's going to be holding our ladder in place. It's going to go left then right. And then the mechanism that we purchased is going to allow us to push it up and slide it to the side. Hooray! it's the correct angle. Oh, thank God.
I would have done it backwards.
Oh.
I would have done everything perfectly, every angle except just backwards. She's tucked away.
Tucked away. She pulls out. Goes like this.
And this is a game changer for me. That telescoping ladder we had before, it worked great. Functionally, it worked great. However, we have pantry storage back in here, and when we tucked the telescoping ladder away, we would have to unhook it, and then I'd have to kind of scooch it in there, and then if I needed something in there, I'd have to scooch it back out. It was just a kind of a pain, and so I avoided doing that, so the ladder just always stayed here in the center. But now we can pull this out when we need to get upstairs. Look how easy that rolls. And still getting used to it, but slides out. You can lock the wheels down here, and I can go up.
So what do we do for internet?
When we first moved up, we just utilized our cell phones and we used it as a hotspot to give service to our computer, which we also use as our television. Mainly we're streaming YouTube and the like. So that was great until it wasn't, because there was a data cap on it. And sometimes signal was awesome, other times it was non-existent. So our next step in the right direction of getting internet was getting a dedicated router with its own cellular plan. Now, the great thing about that is there is no data limit on it, so we didn't have to rely on hotspotting from our phones and anything running out.
But to increase our speed, we got an antenna to boost the signal. Because of our high winds, we had limited options for placement, but Ruben was able to figure it out. And after a little testing and directional trial and error attempts, we got it all set up. Before this setup, we were averaging about 10 megabytes down and 4 megabytes up. Now we're at about 18 down and 11 up. Well, it's no fiber, it definitely does the job. Previously, Ruben had built from the ground up the shed next to the casita that would hold the batteries for the future solar system. This would not only hold the batteries in an insulated environment, but it would also be a working shed if the weather turned bad, and also a tool storage for things we'd be using on a more regular basis. Ruben could not find the correct siding anywhere in our general area that came in the correct color, so we just painted it. After one winter of considerable snow, the roof began to show signs of sagging. In hindsight, the rafters should have been 2x6s instead of 2x4s, but nothing a little tree log couldn't fix. And to account for any weather coming into the shed through the doors, we added a portico. And to account for the high winds, we added hurricane straps here too.
So that when it...
With the added weight of the 1,200-gallon cistern on the gravel pad, we needed to add a retaining wall to support it. Now, we have plenty of lava rock around here, so our neighbor helped us fashion a wire cage out of cattle panel and we built 2 Gabion walls. We had some issues with the first one, but everything is trial and error around here, so when we got to the second, it went much smoother. Both are still in good shape. Our region is considered high desert with some forest weather patterns. Those of you who live in a similar region understand how much the temperature shifts between hot summers and cold winters. But it also shifts just within a day. It's not unusual to have nights in the 40s and days in the high 80s. Generally, we just like the fresh air, but we needed the ability to adjust for extremes in a pinch. We installed mini splits in both the house and the shed, which both cool down and heat up. This was another game changer, not just for our comfort, but for the life of the solar batteries.
Nice, nice, nice.
And then you gotta do the whole connection with the bebop boots and bobbity boom.
Our tiny home is situated on a gravel pad, which is just fine, except it was sometimes tough to get projects done on a rough surface, or maneuver around, and even put simple things down like groceries before entering the front door without having rocks stick to the bottom of the bag, and honestly just for all over comfort. We decided a deck was needed, so over the course of our time here, we started with a deck out in front. Ruben had a rough plan, which we had to adjust as the build progressed, but it proved to work great, and it also became the template for the rest of the platform decks we built. These were probably some of my personal favorite projects to help him with. Well, deck 1 gave us a flat working surface, but we still needed to figure out something for the front door because we were using pallets as makeshift walkways to the new deck. So we got going on deck number 2 and 2.5. This setup was so nice because it expanded our living space and made the whole thing feel more like a home. But the shed did not come with an awning over the door, and in the winter, that wasn't fun. The other items that we wanted to check off were having a shady spot to sit outside under, and even an outdoor space for Rae to hang out in. Ruben figured out how to get a 3-season enclosed porch set up, especially considering the barn pitch of the Casita. It doesn't make it very simple.
And then we're gonna set the little right here for the
rails but at least we have a landing now, like you said, so it's not just jumping out of the door to go check on the chickens, feed the chickens, all that. Now, it doesn't quite match our casita, but we love it just the same. It really does extend the feeling of space, and it does allow for Rae to have plenty of fresh air and play area without having to be in a harness. One of the main reasons we decided on this property was the view. And even though the graded road and the one power line are on the edge of our property, we decided to plop our casita here because, well, the view. And isn't that what most newbies to the country would do? Well, to get here, we made our own road, one drive in and out at a time. Now, overall, we knew we'd have to deal with the power supply being an issue on the other side of the property, but what we didn't know was the mud we'd be dealing with. And this became especially problematic when Ruben's heavy work truck would get stuck. So we had to get gravel hauled in, one truckload at a time. Honestly, we've lost count of how many loads and yards of gravel we have had delivered, and we certainly couldn't afford to do it all at once because it adds up fast. And we also didn't have a clue what the rollers and grading would entail. Now, it was a couple of years worth of hauls, and our budgeting certainly did not account for the dent it would make. They say that hindsight is 20/20, So now that we know what the true cost would be, would we still place the casita here? Well, the answer is yes, because, well, the view. The main method of heating our tiny home is with our mini wood stove. It's made by a company in Canada and is designed for small structures and van life. We have the Grizzly edition, and it heats up our 300 square foot house very well. The wood source we use is our very own juniper. We fell it ourselves and then process it down ourselves using an axe and a hatchet. These western junipers are native to the area but have overgrown the native grassland by a significant amount. Their roots grow wide, seeking water. Each mature tree uses 20 to 40 gallons of water per day during the summer. That's a lot. And with all of the water craziness in the great state of California, many of these trees just dry up. So for fire mitigation reasons alone, it's imperative to fell compromised trees. The bonus is we get an amazing smelling firewood which burns hot, and the ashes then get used in the garden and for the chickens as their dirt baths. Another really handy skill that Ruben picked up is milling our own lumber. He's gotten pretty proficient at using this manual Alaskan chainsaw. When we need raw lumber, Ruben has come to the rescue with this many times. In fact, half of our garden beds are built using this method and our very own wood. It doesn't get any more local than that.
I have no idea how deep that is, but that's how far we're going.
Did we use all 5 stakes there?
Getting a garden going was an unknown challenge as well. We started with a humble little plot in front of the casita to see just what would grow. Our intense summer heat and high winds definitely made things tough, but we got a cute little harvest of corn, squash, pumpkins, potatoes, and even some beans. Over the next couple of growing seasons, we cleared an area next to the casita that would give the plants some afternoon shade and wind protection. Being so close to the casita also helped a bit more with watering, as well as the deer pressure. Each year, we're making adjustments to our growing because only by doing, making mistakes, and learning from them are we going to get any better. And each year, our harvests have increased.
I'm super excited to soon make my own green chili stew from everything we grew here on the property.
We're at a point where we're able to can, ferment, dry, and even preserve a lot of these, and not just using the herbs and flowers for culinary uses, but to also make teas, salves, and a few tinctures. Do we get sick? Of course. We work with people and kids, but we're able to rely on what we grow to heal our minor ailments and then go to a doctor when it's serious. The body is really a miracle if you just let it do its job. Since we love making homemade bread, we thought we'd give wheat growing a try. In the fall, we planted hard red winter wheat. It was a fun process, and we honestly had no idea what it would be competing with come springtime. Well, spring came, and we had a lot of native grasses outgrowing it. We still went full steam ahead with harvesting.
Okay, so we are harvesting the wheat by hand with these sickles. And as we harvest them, we're putting them in bunches here on our canvas tarp. Then what we have to do is we have to separate the wheat berries. So that is when threshing comes in.
Well, our wheat harvest was not amazing, so rather than going through the trouble of grinding it into flour for a tiny loaf of bread, we decided that adding this to a homemade mash for beer would be a better use of the product. So we decided on a complete, from-scratch wheat beer. We malted the grains ourselves and got busy. We ended up with a straightforward, crisp, farmhouse-style wit beer. This recipe is a keeper. At the beginning of 2025, we decided it was time to get some farm animals, and our schedules and lives allowed for only chickens. But the elements around here can be fickle, so we wanted to create an elevated coop housed in an enclosed chicken run. This would be for the times when we'd have to be gone. The chickens still need fresh air and sunshine as much as anybody, but they needed to be safe as well.
Ta-da!
The egg-laying birds came first. We had them in their indoor brooder in the shed until it was time to get them more adjusted to the outdoors. We moved them into the coop while still being in their warm and cozy brooder. It was at this time when we received the Cornish cross meat birds. Their brooder was the enclosed coop since the egg layers were still in their own brooder. And these birds grew fast. They gorged whenever it was feeding time. The meat birds would be going out to pasture for free ranging, so we built an A-frame chicken hut on wheels. At about 3 weeks old, we transported them to green pasture where they stayed protected within a hot fence. We moved them every few days to forage new grass and grubs until they were 7 weeks old, when it was time to harvest them. This was probably the most challenging project we have had to tackle out here.
That was hard for me.
And we won't go into detail now, but if you do want to see the process and the cost breakdown, you can watch the 2 full episodes, which are episodes 26 and 27 of 2025. I'll link them in the description below. And we suppose the big question is, would we do it again? The answer is yes. It was really tough to do, but we ended up with a freezer full of pasture-raised, non-medicated, non-GMO, cared-for, organic protein that we can nourish ourselves with and give as thank you gifts to our friends and neighbors who have helped us so much up here. And the egg layers? Well, they have grown up and have gotten used to the colder weather. They take about 6 months before they begin to produce eggs, and now we are getting them pretty much daily. Their coop's name was officially changed from the chick-in to the eggplant. The last 3 years have flown by for us. We spend our weekdays working and our weekends getting projects done all around here. There has been very little time for getaways, but that is sort of why we moved up here to begin with. Our getaway is the outdoors, and here, well, we're living it. It just takes a little more work to do
Before I
it.
get back to the start-finish line.
We were used to an extremely fast, high-stress life in the city, and we've carried that same tenacity here with us, otherwise we wouldn't be able to get anything done. But the anxiety, we left it behind with the smog. We're still not 100% sure why God moved us up here, but we love it, with all its quirkiness and challenges. The mountain, the surrounding forests, the animals, the stars, the stillness, and the storms. We're just closer to it all, and that's what makes it all worth it. We're excited what 2026 has in store, and we plan to share some of that with you here, hopefully in the upcoming video. We hope you enjoyed this highlight reel recap of the last 3 years. If you sat through it this far, we really appreciate it. We know this was a long one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Stop!